You know that feeling that you get when you're working on a piece of music, you adjust a couple of things, maybe you add a synth, suddenly there's a little magical spark, something comes alive in the piece. Your enthusiasm suddenly goes up a notch and it feels like everything's working. You start working on the arrangement slightly, things get a little bit more difficult, it doesn't seem to gel. Your enthusiasm goes down a notch. It's a roller coaster. The biggest high that you get is when that piece is finished. That feeling is incredible. That's the best part. Then you pop it on social media. You get 1 or 2 likes, and that's a really good feeling too. There's a lull. It tails off. You don't get that massive launch that you'd hoped for, and your enthusiasm goes down, and that second wind just doesn't come. You take a bit of an emotional knock. You take a break, take stock, have a think. Let's do another piece of music, another drawing or another piece of artwork. All this is the same process. You've put in a lot of creative effort. You've used your ideas. You've used all your skills. You had a high when you hit that end point, and you've hit a lull when you've released it. Bear with me for a few minutes while I explain a project that I worked on, which has given me an awful lot of tools which I can share with you that might help you to hack the good parts of the process and keep your enthusiasm up and keep you productive. In 2019, I worked on a project called Inktober, an art challenge that was developed by a chap called Jake Parker, and he has a YouTube channel, which I'll link down below. Jake is a fantastic comic book and graphic novel artist. He's got some really interesting videos that he's put up on his channel, so I really would suggest you go and take a look at those. The Inktober challenge that he developed runs in the month of October every year, as you can probably guess from the name, and the idea is that for every day in that month you produce a single piece of artwork. Each day of the month has its own prompt that you draw from. Now, the suggestion is that you try and do one every day in the month. The other key part of Inktober is that on each day that you finished your artwork, you're supposed to post it on Instagram with the Inktober hashtag. In 2018, I gave it a go, downloaded the list of prompts. Each one is, as I say, it's an individual word, and it might be something really abstract like tether, lightning, jump, for example. And you interpret those in any way you want. I was stuck almost immediately. What am I going to draw? The word jump, for example, a superhero strength that allowed them to jump really high. Was I going to do a frog, some sort of spring? It was just too broad, too open for me. I would spend a good 30% of the time that I had available for producing artwork trying to think what it was that I was going to draw. So within about 3 or 4 days, unfortunately, I called a halt and said to myself, I'm not in the right space to do this. My mindset isn't right. So wind forward 12 months, I thought I'll have another go at Inktober. And this time I went in with the knowledge that I had to have some kind of overriding theme which would help me to tackle the prompts better. So I decided Hollywood movies would be the way I would categorize everything. What films had a certain theme that connected with the prompt? So, for example, there was one that was Dizzy, the movie Top Gun, and there's the scene where Maverick and Goose, their aircraft gets caught in a flat spin and it goes out of control and they crash land. So I could draw something from that scene of the movie without having to rack my brains too much. Lo and behold, it was easier. Every day I could come up with something from a film. I'd shortcutted that problem. Now, the great thing about Inktober, I realized when I'd finished it, was that it allowed me to go all the way through from idea generation to production, drawing in this instance, all the way through to finishing and publishing the finished piece of work. You, of course, get some social media feedback. You get all the likes, you get the comments if your artwork appeals to people, and you get the buzz, you get the high, or you get the disappointment when you don't get the kind of recognition that you're looking for. So the great thing about the Inktober challenge is it allows you to go through that full loop every day that you do the work. You start to get a different mindset. The first thing that it taught me was to be less precious about whatever it was that I'm working on. It doesn't matter if I screw this one up. There's always tomorrow's prompt to work on. You make the best that you can out of it. You have to just be content that that piece of work is finished and done at the end of the day. Second lesson from Inktober for me was focusing on the creativity, the actual production of the piece of work, rather than the tools that I'm using. So throughout the entire month, I would use a single pencil and brush pen to create the artwork. I wasn't worrying about whether I should use paints or whether I should do some digital artwork. Everything was purely done with the same process each day. If you're going to produce a single piece of artwork every day for a full month, you have to be determined, and having that very short turnaround of 1 day per piece allows you to build that habit and to become quite resilient. If you put aside, let's say, 30 minutes every day, you can build up quite a determination to find that amount of time. Balancing having a system with being creative is another great thing that came out of Inktober. Going through that full cycle of drawing from scratch and then publishing and posting it up on Instagram, that allowed me to think where the systems needed to be in place to do something quickly if it was less important to the whole process, and to take the time and focus on the creative bits where that was going to really make a difference. That was a huge learning. So Inktober was finished. I'd killed it. I was dead chuffed. I was really pleased with myself. What was I going to do next? Well, I considered doing more art challenges. I considered pulling up previous year's Inktober prompts and working on those, and instead decided that I wanted to make a challenge of my own. In the month of November, I would produce some music. I would finish some tracks, and I would try and use the momentum that I built up in Inktober to carry that forward into music. I've set up my synthesizers and the mixer and started jamming away on the 1st of November and produced a nice little sort of ambient background piece. Wasn't finished in my eyes at that point. Came back to it the following day thinking I'll add some more parts. Had a listen back to it, and it just struck me at that point that it was okay as it was. Perhaps I should leave that one. Maybe I needed to start a second piece on the second day. So I did that, using the same kit that was already all plugged in. I thought, as I was doing this, why am I trying to elaborately build on a track that I did the previous day if it sounded okay as it was? Particularly when the previous challenge that I'd worked on was all about completing a loop and publishing and finishing stuff in 1 day. If somebody had said to me from the outset, try and do a piece of music each day, I would have considered that impossible. However, just working on music for 2 days running, I hit the point where I'd got 2 pieces of music. So I then set the challenge, Novembiant I would call it, and the idea was I would create a piece of finished ambient music in every day of the month of November. I didn't manage all 30, but I got 22, which for the first time round I thought was pretty good. And the Novembian album from 2019 is available on my Bandcamp, so please feel free to check that out, and I hope you enjoy it. That whole process is available to anybody, and I really encourage you to give it a try. It might help you to break the cycle of getting disheartened if a piece that you finish doesn't go the way you want it to when it's released. Focus instead on the process and get good at that process by doing it every day and rapidly churning through work, because the bits that you're good at, you will just do anyway. The bits that you're not so good at, you'll be forced to tackle them head on and finish those processes. So here it is, the launch of the crazy challenge Septechno. Give yourself every chance you can to succeed. Be kind to yourself if you do decide to join in. But the idea is pull together whatever kit you use or whatever software you use to make music. If you don't have anything like that, there is a website called Audio Sauna, which is fantastic. It's completely free. And you can jump on there, and there are virtual drum machines, virtual synthesizers, that kind of thing. Have a go at creating a piece of music each day in September. Record it and pop it on a Bandcamp page or your SoundCloud if you've got something like that. Pull them all together at the end of the month and publish then. Give yourself every chance, as I say, to succeed. Try putting aside maybe 30 minutes at most each day and just save whatever you've come up with during that time and call it quits. Have a go, see what you come up with, and please keep in touch. If you found this interesting or useful, please do leave a like. Every week I publish a video called JFDI, in which I talk about more creative techniques and things that I find inspiring that I'll try and share with you. If you've got projects of your own that you're working on, please let us know. Leave a comment down below and tell everybody what you've been up to. I'll see you next time. Cheers.